The universe is filled with wonders. From the smallest star tells a story of creation, life, and we find creatures like Asmodeus, beings of immense sits among the highest ranks of hell, a prince among the hidden cravings that lurk in the shadows of our minds, to lead souls astray from the path of righteousness, act on the world. Ancient texts speak of his threat he poses. Asmodeus serves as a starkness, where the lines between good and evil blur, link in the grand timeline of the universe. Each star tells a story of creation, life, and eventual demise, contributing to the ever-changing mosaic of the night sky. But there are other realms, unseen by our telescopes. These are the hidden dimensions, the shadowy corners of existence that elude our scientific instruments and our understanding. These are the realms of myth and legend, places where the boundaries between reality and fantasy blur. Ancient texts and stories passed down through generations speak of these mysterious worlds. Here we find creatures like Asmodeus, beings of immense power and malevolence. Asmodeus is not just a figment of imagination, but a symbol of the darker aspects of human nature. He is a demon of immense power, feared and revered in equal measure. His presence is a reminder of the potential for darkness that exists within us all. His name echoes with dread, a whisper in the dark that sends shivers down the spine. Asmodeus is a name that has been feared for centuries, a symbol of the ultimate tempter. Asmodeus sits among the highest ranks of hell, a prince among demons. His throne is a testament to his power and his dominion over the infernal realm. He is a prince of darkness, a master of temptation. His sinister grin is a reflection of his delight in leading souls astray and sowing chaos and discord. His specialty? The sin of lust. Asmodeus embodies our darkest desires, the urges that we often try to suppress, but that can sometimes overwhelm us. Asmodeus embodies our darkest desires, the hidden cravings that lurk in the shadows of our minds. He is the personification of temptation, always ready to exploit our weaknesses. He whispers to the part of us that craves pleasure above all else, the part that seeks gratification without regard for the consequences. His voice is a seductive lure, drawing us towards the forbidden. He thrives on chaos and destruction, finding joy in the turmoil and suffering of others. His influence can be seen in the havoc that often follows in his wake. His goal? To lead souls astray from the path of righteousness. Asmodeus seeks to divert us from the light, to pull us into the darkness where he reigns supreme. Asmodeus is a constant reminder of the battle between good and evil that rages within us all. This internal struggle is a defining aspect of the human experience, a fight for our very souls. His influence stretches back millennia, a dark thread woven through the fabric of history. Ancient scrolls and texts recount his deeds and his impact on the world. Ancient texts speak of his exploits, chronicling his attempts to corrupt and destroy. These stories serve as warnings, reminders of the dangers that lurk in the shadows. He is a prominent figure in Jewish and Christian demonology, a testament to his enduring presence in the collective consciousness. His name appears in religious texts, a symbol of ultimate evil. We find him in the grimoires of magic and the whispers of folklore. These tales and texts keep his legend alive, a reminder of the ever-present threat he poses. Asmodeus serves as a stark warning, a symbol of the consequences of giving in to our basest desires. His story is a cautionary tale, urging us to remain vigilant against the temptations that can lead us astray. He reminds us that even in the darkest corners of existence, there is a fight for the very essence of our souls. This battle is ongoing, a struggle that defines our existence. This is the story of Asmodeus. Prepare yourself for a journey into the heart of darkness, where the lines between good and evil blur, and the stakes are nothing less than our souls. It is a tale of lust, destruction, and the constant struggle between the forces of light and darkness. This is the eternal conflict, a battle that shapes our world and our destinies. Long ago, a city stood on the edge of destruction. The air was thick with the stench of sin and the cries of indulgence. Feasts that lasted for days were ever present, whispering his insidious suggestion. The more they would crave, and the more they craved, out to his twisted satisfaction. He reveled with masterful precision. He was the consumed by wickedness. The city's leaders were corrupt, and the people followed suit, engaging in acts that defied the very essence of morality. The air was thick with the stench of sin, and the cries of the innocent were drowned out by the cacophony of debauchery. Its inhabitants had turned away from righteousness. They ignored the warnings of the few who still held on to their faith, choosing instead to indulge in their basest desires. The city's elders, once wise and just, had become blind to the suffering around them, their hearts hardened by years of indulgence. They wallowed in sin and depravity. The streets of Sodom were filled with scenes of excess and indulgence, feasts that lasted for days where gluttony reigned supreme, orgies that blurred the lines of decency where lust was the only law. The people of Sodom had become slaves to their desires, and their city was a reflection of their inner corruption. Behind their downfall lurked Asmodeus. This demon, a master of temptation, had set his sights on Sodom, seeing it as the perfect playground for his dark machinations. He moved through the city like a shadow, unseen but ever present, whispering his insidious suggestions into the ears of the unsuspecting. He whispered temptations in their ears. His voice was like honey, sweet and irresistible, promising pleasures beyond their wildest dreams, and the people of Sodom, already teetering on the edge of moral collapse, were all too eager to listen. They followed his guidance, plunging deeper into the abyss of sin. He fueled their desires, pushing them further into darkness. Asmodeus knew that the more they indulged, the more they would crave, and the more they craved, the further they would fall. It was a vicious cycle, one that he was all too happy to perpetuate. The city's descent into darkness was swift and unstoppable. Asmodeus delighted in the city's descent. He watched with glee as the people of Sodom abandoned their humanity, becoming little more than beasts driven by their primal urges. The chaos and suffering that ensued were a testament to his power, a dark symphony that played out to his twisted satisfaction. He reveled in their lustful actions. Every act of debauchery, every sin committed in the name of pleasure was a victory for Asmodeus. He fed off their desires, growing stronger with each passing day. The city of Sodom had become his personal playground, a place where his influence reigned supreme. Their wanton desires were music to his ears. The cries of ecstasy, the moans of pleasure, the sounds of sin, they were a symphony that Asmodeus conducted with masterful precision. He was the unseen maestro, orchestrating the city's downfall with a smile on his face. Sodom became a beacon of depravity, a testament to Asmodeus's power. The city's reputation spread far and wide, drawing in those who sought to indulge in their darkest desires. It became a place where anything was possible, where the only limit was one's imagination. But this beacon of sin was also a warning. A sigh grew heavy with anticipation, as if the very element wrath. The heavens opened up and fire rained eruption. He saw the hand of Asmodeus at work in wrath. Fire rained down from the sky, silent and empty. The cries of the wicked filled the air. The destruction of Sodom serves as a chilling reminder of the city of its sins. A reckoning was at hand. Dark clouds began to gather over the city, a sign of the impending doom. The air grew heavy with anticipation, as if the very elements were holding their breath. The people of Sodom, lost in their debauchery, were oblivious to the storm that was brewing. From the heavens, a storm gathered. This was no ordinary storm, but a manifestation of divine wrath. Lightning crackled across the sky, illuminating the city in brief, blinding flashes. Thunder rumbled like the voice of an angry god, shaking the very foundations of Sodom. It was not a storm of rain or wind, but of divine wrath. The heavens opened up and fire rained down upon the city. The flames consumed everything in their path, leaving nothing but ash and ruin in their wake. The people of Sodom, caught in the inferno, could do nothing but scream in terror. God had seen the depths of Sodom's depravity. He had watched as the city fell deeper into sin, as its people abandoned all sense of morality. And now, the time for judgment had come. The divine hand of justice was poised to strike, to cleanse the city of its corruption. He saw the hand of Asmodeus at work. The demon's influence was clear, his fingerprints all over the city's downfall. But even Asmodeus, with all his power, could not stand against the will of the divine. The time for reckoning had come, and there was no escape. The fate of the city was sealed. The judgment was swift and absolute. The flames consumed everything, leaving no trace of the once great city. The people of Sodom, their cries of terror echoing through the inferno, were swept away in the tide of divine wrath. Fire rained down from the sky, consuming everything in its path. The buildings, the streets, the very ground itself, all were reduced to ash. The city that had once been a beacon of sin was now a smoldering ruin, a testament to the power of divine justice. Sodom, once a monument to sin, was reduced to ash. The city's ruins stood as a stark reminder of the consequences of unchecked wickedness. The once thriving metropolis was now a desolate wasteland, its streets silent and empty. The cries of the wicked filled the air as the flames devoured them. Their screams were a haunting symphony, a final testament to their sins. The fire showed no mercy, consuming all in its path, leaving nothing but charred remains. Asmodeus watched from afar, his laughter echoing through the inferno. Even in the face of divine wrath, the demon found amusement in the suffering of the wicked. His laughter was a chilling reminder of the darkness that had once held sway over the city. The destruction of Sodom serves as a chilling reminder of the consequences of succumbing to our basest desires. It is a cautionary tale, a warning to all who would follow in the city's footsteps. The ruins of Sodom stand as a testament to the power of divine justice and the dangers of giving in to temptation. The tale of Asmodeus continues in the book of Tobias. Beautiful and kind, but a dark cloud hangs over her. All times, a prisoner in her own home, unable to escape death more mysterious and gruesome than the last. Leave any mortal man to have Sarah. Sarah is distressed in her life, but hope is not lost. And risking his own life to save Sarah from her torments becomes the object of Asmodeus's dark obsession. Her life, once filled with hope and promise, is now overshadowed by an ever-present sense of dread. She is beautiful and kind, but a dark cloud hangs over her. Her days are filled with sorrow, and her nights are plagued by nightmares. The townsfolk whisper of a curse, but none can fathom the true horror that haunts her. Asmodeus has taken a sinister interest in Sarah. His presence is a constant oppressive force lurking in the shadows, waiting to strike. He revels in her suffering, feeding off her fear and despair. He has claimed her as his own, trapping her in a web of fear and despair. Sarah feels the weight of his malevolent gaze upon her at all times, a prisoner in her own home, unable to escape the darkness that surrounds her. 7 times Sarah has been promised in marriage. Each time she dared to hope for a future filled with love and happiness, but each time her dreams were shattered. And 7 times, tragedy is struck. The joy of her betrothals quickly turned to mourning, as death claimed her grooms one by one. The townspeople began to fear her, believing her to be cursed. Her husbands-to-be have died before they could even touch her, each death more mysterious and gruesome than the last, leaving Sarah in a state of perpetual grief and isolation. Asmodeus, driven by his insatiable lust, has murdered them all. His jealousy knows no bounds, and his wrath is unrelenting. He takes perverse pleasure in ensuring that Sarah remains alone and desolate. He is jealous and possessive. His twisted love for Sarah is a dark parody of true affection, a toxic bond that binds her to him in a cycle of torment and despair. He will not allow any mortal man to have Sarah. Sarah is distraught. Her heart is heavy with the weight of her losses, and her spirit is crushed under the burden of her cursed fate. She is tormented by the deaths of her betrothed. She feels cursed, unlovable. The once vibrant and hopeful young woman is now a shadow of her former self, consumed by grief and hopelessness. Little does she know that a powerful demon is responsible for her misery. The true nature of her tormentor remains hidden from her, a dark secret that continues to poison her life. But hope is not lost. In the midst of her darkest days, a glimmer of light appears. A young man named Tobias, brave and determined, is about to enter her life. Tobias, guided by divine intervention and armed with unwavering courage, is destined to challenge the demon that has plagued Sarah for so long. He will become the instrument of Asmodeus's downfall. With the help of the archangel Raphael, Tobias will confront the demon, risking his own life to save Sarah from her torment. Their encounter will be a battle for Sarah's soul. The struggle between Tobias and Asmodeus will be fierce, a clash of light and darkness, good and evil. And it will have repercussions that echo throughout the realms of good and evil. The outcome of this battle will not only determine Sarah's fate, but will also send ripples through the cosmic balance, affecting the very fabric of the universe. Tobias, a young man of faith, receives a divine fish he must catch. Its heart, liver, and gall hold hidden debt owed to his father. Little does he know that this journey will bring him face to face with the demon Asmodeus. Guiding Tobias is the archangel Raphael, disguised as a traveler. Raphael knows the dangers that lie ahead. He knows of Asmodeus's hold over Sarah. He has come to help Tobias overcome this evil. Along the road, Raphael gives Tobias instructions. He tells him of a special fish he must catch. Its heart, liver, and gall hold hidden powers. These will be Tobias's weapons against the demon. Tobias listens intently to Raphael's words. He is filled with a mix of trepidation and courage. He understands the gravity of his task. He is not just claiming a debt, he is confronting a force of pure evil. Their journey continues, each step taking them closer to their destiny. Tobias's encounter with Asmodeus is inevitable. The fate of Sarah hangs in the balance.